Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We begin in Nigeria, where the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has asked unemployed graduates to invest their time in creative jobs. According to Charles Akpan, a spokesman of the ministry, Ngige said this in Benin, Edo State, during a town hall meeting on the popularization of blue/green collar jobs among graduates of tertiary institutions on Monday. Ngige advised the youth to look beyond government jobs. He urged Nigerian youth to invest their talents in other job sectors, as the richest youth of the world, aged between 21 and 31 years, are not employees of government, but smart entrepreneurs who distinguish themselves in creative skills in various areas. I'm going to go straight to Leila. Because Leila, your face is a picture.
I am
Please
so
share your thoughts
confused.
as a member of that demographic, the 21 to 31-year-old.
What an absolute shame. You know, I mean, I'm not surprised because Chris Ngige has come out to say a lot of things in the past that really and truly are quite unreasonable. But as someone who is in her mid-20s that moved back to Nigeria, has had no support from the government, did not use nepotism to get to where I am, has been working and building up my career since the age of 15 and knows so many other young people that have had to do the exact same thing to be able to move back to this country and survive, or either grow up in this country and survive. This is absolutely demeaning to all of those efforts. That is a complete knock at the end of the day. Government has to provide security and welfare. If you don't provide that, you cannot expect your citizens to develop. You cannot expect human development to be high. If human development is not high, at the end of the day, you can't expect people to come out employable even if they go to university, right? Because you haven't given them the right system from the get-go. So if the foundation isn't there and young people are still able to come out and thrive in these stark conditions, then this is an absolute knock. I mean, this is just as bad as when the president said the Nigerian youths are lazy. I mean, I don't know anymore. What else do they want us to do? Well, I don't know. What else do they want us to do?
Well, with due respect, I have a slightly different view, which is that, look, when the minister or the Ministry of Labour and Productivity organizes a forum to address opportunities in terms of blue and green collar jobs. And that event that was held in Benin City was simultaneously held in 4 other locations across Nigeria, 4 other geopolitical zones, which is to sensitize young people to say that, look, government cannot provide all the jobs. President Muhammadu Buhari has said that he will create 100 million jobs in 10 years. But to be able to do that, young people will also have to be creative. Everybody should not look towards the public sector for employment, which I think, you know, it's actually a no-brainer.
Which is what young people are already pushed to do.
Because the government, you know, at whatever level, either federal, state, or local government, cannot in any case employ everyone. But the question is, if you are telling Nigerians that they need to embrace entrepreneurship, which is the point. And we've seen a lot of creativity, you know, a lot of confidence on the part of many young Nigerians. There are young Nigerians who have never worked in government. Not because they've been supported to be able to do that, but because of their own sense of adventure. And one standing argument out there is what we've always, articulated, which is that if you look at the curriculum, the educational curriculum in Nigeria, it does not quite prepare many young Nigerians for school to life, or if you like, school to work transition. Yeah. You know, the curriculum is still very much about rote learning. It's still much certificate oriented. It's still so much about just passing examination rather than applying knowledge. And the purpose of education, you know, is to turn you into a useful individual in society. And that's why we've been saying that we need to take a second look at the curriculum. In some other parts of the world, entrepreneurship is part of the curriculum in any discipline at all. Yes. You know, what you've been taught, how do you apply it? How do you use to create opportunities both for yourself and for society? So I think the starting point, you know, for the minister is not just to talk about, young Nigerians should learn to be creative, they should embrace entrepreneurship. You know, we need to start at the level of policy by taking another look at school curriculum and to see how our education system prepares our people, our young people, for life after school, not just to carry a certificate,
That's what I said.
And not be able to apply themselves. But in principle, what you have said about creativity, about entrepreneurship is important.
No,
but even then, the young people,
phrasing things.
Exactly.
even then, the young Nigerians who have embraced entrepreneurship, what kind of support are they getting from government? Is there an enabling environment for youth enterprise? Is there, do we have grants, on a sustainable basis to support young people who want to be creative? So it's not just dealing with the theory of it. Government must move beyond preaching.
It's
sermonizing.
It is. And
to have a proper framework in place.
Exactly. What exactly does the government want to take responsibility for? All of this, don't look to the government for this, don't look to the government for that. Then what do we look to the government to provide?
Exactly.
Even basics like security are a challenge today.
No, that may be the headline. You may not have put it like that.
So this is
that
what
may
I was
be
coming
the sub-editors.
Thank you for that. I was coming to that. I hope that it was phrased in a more elegant manner than how it's come
No, you
across.
could not have gone there. Of course, it was represented at the event by one of his officials. I mean, I don't imagine you go and stand in front of an audience and say, don't look up to government. No, that's a headline. That may have been, how the sub-editor
insensitive. It's a very insensitive concept given the clients.
Saying doctors should go ahead and just become fashion designers and just find whatever your hands find to do. It is insensitive.
It's honestly insensitive.
That sort of approach needs to change in the way that the youth is addressed.
Especially when you look at what the youth have to go through just to survive in this country. Just the other day, Tunde, remember when we were speaking on the show and I was saying, think about it. People born in my generation, we have never seen a good Nigeria. No. And you were like, wait, that's true. I just saw the end of it.
Yeah,
think about it. We have never seen a good Nigeria. We still continue to push, strive, try our very best with little to no support from the government. I don't think I've ever gotten any support from the government in any way whatsoever. Not my education, not my healthcare, nothing. Not even my road use, to be honest with you.
But most of the time you were abroad, weren't you?
No, but I was here as well. I was born here.
But that's
I was raised
why
here.
you were abroad. A lot of Nigerians didn't even envisage ever having to send their children abroad.
Exactly.
In your generation, certainly. It started to happen in my generation where there was this mass exodus for foreign university degrees. It's really unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate.
In any case, we must commend young Nigerians. If you look at what is happening with startups, what is happening in the SME sector, what is happening in the creative industry.
Yes, that's what we want to hear from the minister.
A lot of young people who are making great strides, in music and fashion. What they need is support.
And not a government that puts us down.
An education curriculum that can prepare them. For that enterprise
so
and
actually
creativity.
be employable once they graduate.
Honestly.
So some work needs to be done there.
Certainly.
Now to China. They've reportedly sacked a number of senior figures over their handling of the new coronavirus outbreak. According to state media, there have been hundreds of sackings, investigations and warnings across Hubei and other provinces during the outbreak. The news comes as the death toll from the virus passed 1,000. It is understood senior health officials have been sacked for incompetence and mishandling donations. Now, I feel for China in many ways, but yes, I'm glad that this acknowledges that the outbreak was handled badly, could have been handled better from the get-go, and it might not have spread the way that it did. And obviously, people do need to take responsibility, heads need to roll, because over 1,000 deaths is nothing short of a disaster.
Well, I think, China has been commended, not just by the World Health Organization, but also the African Union, which just concluded its summit in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, the 33rd summit of the EU heads of states. And generally, the perception is that China has done a lot to prevent, to contain, to check, to treat people. About 3,000 plus persons have been killed, but the casualty figure is over 1,000, as you pointed out. Now, what we have seen here is that in spite of all of that, China as a state is still insisting that, persons have to be responsible, they have to be diligent, and when you are negligent, you get sanctioned. The Politburo, which is the highest political body in China, has even had to come out publicly, most unusually, to admit that, they've not done enough for the people.
Yeah, because the first whistleblower was silent. And if they had nipped it in the bud then, there might not have been 1,000 casualties. But we need to take a short break now. Please stay with us for more on the news headlines.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Rotus Odiri is here with business stories. Rotus, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so what we're discussing today is pretty much the World Bank report called Advancing Social Protection in a Dynamic Nigeria. And it looks at how there's high income inequality along geographic lines in the country. The report is from 2016, and it shows that 87%, I mean, this is stuff we kind of already know, but 87% of poverty in Nigeria is concentrated in the north. And out of that 87%, half of that is in the northwest, coincidentally, where the president is from, Katsina State. It essentially talks about how the level of poverty in the country draws a link, and this is something I mentioned yesterday when we were talking about the Amotekun issue and security and so on. They drew a link between joblessness, unemployment, and the Boko Haram insurgency in the northern part of the country. I just heard you guys talking about the Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Ngige's comments about the youth not depending on the government for jobs. So this report actually brings to light, again, something we already know, but it really, stark contrast of how the government's policies and elevating people out of poverty haven't really worked yet. So, we can talk about the points of how the government hasn't done what it needs to do, but the key thing is, how do you raise these people out of poverty? What needs to be done?
100 million over 10 years. That's the president's target.
Yes. Target, yeah.
But what concerns me about that target was what was sort of the modus operandi using the NSIP program. I mean, how is that going to alleviate poverty? I don't understand it.
The major challenge that we have in Nigeria is how to raise the quality of human capital,
right.
The Human Development Index. Whether it is in the north or in the south, we have a crisis with the Human Development Index.
Funny enough, the south, sorry to interrupt, the south, 87% in the north, only 12% in the south. In fact, the largest poverty drop was seen in the south between 2011 and 2016.
Well, understandably, and the World Bank report, is not saying anything new or anything that we do not know. Right. If you look at the reasons that the World Bank offers, there are reasons that have been debated over time in Nigeria. One, low level of education in the north. The north has, a much higher percentage of Nigerian children who are out of school. Out of that 15 million that is always quoted, you can be sure that about 90% of that is in the north. You have also, issues in terms of weak governance, poor social infrastructure, lack of access to water, disaster, conflict, climate change, environmental challenges in the north. And all of that, of course, there are things that are known to the leadership in the north. And I think that the bottom line is that governors of the north, leaders of the north, since 1959, I keep saying it, have been holding meetings about how to move the north forward, about how to compete effectively with the southern part of the country, but they've not been able to do it because there's a lack of commitment, there's lack of will. And this was the point being alluded to by Suleiman, Abdulaziz Suleiman, the spokesperson for the coalition of northern groups, while trying to justify Operation Shege Kafasa. He said directly that, the northern elite is alienated from the people and has been an irresponsible elite. This was his point, and I think it's a point that, nobody can controvert. So it is for the leadership of the North, to wake up. And we're beginning to see some instances of how you can address some of these issues outlined in the World Bank report. Take education. In Kaduna State now, the governor in Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, is enforcing the UBEC law. He has just said no child must be seen on the streets begging. Any child that is seen begging on the streets, the parents of that particular child will be sanctioned according to the law. So if you have every governor in the northern region enforcing that law, that would be a starting point with regard to education. Then many of the other issues are issues that can be addressed if there is responsible governance.
Yes, but it's all deliberate, isn't it?
It's what?
It's deliberate. They're trying to keep the people down so they can continue to take advantage of them.
That's one
feudalism and all that, but you see, we're running a democracy.
Right.
And democracy is about the rule of law, it's about rights, it's about respect for the human
You will
person.
not know if you don't have an education. That's the catch-22, unfortunately.
Thank
you, Rotus.
thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Rotus. Let's hope that all of us will be lifted out of poverty,
Exactly.
particularly the people in the rural areas who are most affected.
64%, pretty tough.
Yes.
Thanks. Please stay with us. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with sports headlines with Aaron Akerejala.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Aaron Akerejala with Sports News. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning to
You haven't
Good
praised
morning, Leila.
Tudun this morning. I'm waiting for that.
I can see you're coordinating with your colors red.
Again.
Okay. All right. We've been building up to the Olympics in a matter of months. The 2020 Olympics in Tokyo will be here, and qualifications are actually rife. They're actually beginning to enter into full gear as we get into the months and the weeks and the months leading up to the Olympics. And one particular team right now are actually crying, literally, because I just spoke to the president just yesterday night. And as we speak to you right now, the All-African Seniors Championship is going down in Egypt as we speak. And as we speak, the Nigerian contingent that are supposed to attend the All-African Seniors Championship, these were the Nigerian contingents that went to the games in Morocco and actually won medals, silver medals, and the mixed event, which started yesterday. Nigeria actually won the gold medal. Of course, Olofua, Godwin Olofua, and Noah Kweyori were the guys that actually won it. Nigeria actually are one of the best teams in Africa. And as we still speak, they're still stuck in Nigeria because the Egyptian embassy has, for some particular reason, refused to give them visas to actually go and attend the event. The single event starts on Friday, but the doubles event have already started. This is the second day of the event, and it's rather sad that these people, and if they don't go to this tournament opens them up for and gives them qualification for the Thomas and Uber Cup that will be taking place in the Netherlands. And from there, that's where you actually can pick up tickets for the Olympics. So rather unfortunate that one of Nigeria's brightest lights in 2019, will not be likely not to go to the Olympics except something drastic happens.
This is for badminton, right?
Yes, for badminton.
Well, I mean, it's a most unusual situation because the Egyptian embassy will understand that they are, going to Egypt to take part in a specific event. The question I will ask is that, one, did the Nigerian Badminton Federation, did they apply early enough? Because, look, oftentimes, our people, Nigerians, oftentimes they drop the ball. They could apply, at the very last minute and expect that the Egyptian consular officers will jump up and down. What is the regulation? What is the time frame for application? We need to be sure of that before we begin to accuse the Egyptians of wrongdoing. Secondly, if this situation has arisen and the tournament, the competition started, you said yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
Okay, what steps, have they taken? That is the Nigeria Badminton Federation. If they're in such a tight corner, have they approached the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which will have been in the best position to contact the Egyptian embassy, send a note verbal, and try to use, the influence of the foreign ministry to get the matter resolved. So it's not a thing for them to go public about and complain that this is what the Egyptian embassy has done. I would like to know, third, the Egyptian embassy's side of the story. Is there anything at all. But I suspect, I don't have any proof, that maybe they didn't apply early enough.
No, they applied on the 28th of January, by the way. And also...
For an event that will start within a week.
In their own defense, I've dealt with the Egyptian embassy. They're very sparse. As a matter of fact, you can literally count the number of people that work in the Egyptian embassy with your hands, literally. Because people have complained. The Nations Cup was held in Egypt last year, and we know how people complained about the fact that at some point, there were about 2 or 3 people in the entire embassy. And the questions were being asked, maybe people having dual roles and the rest of them. It's really, really sad. But we're hoping... We're hoping that the Ministry of Youth and Sports are trying to intervene and trying to see how they can fast track this and see how they can salvage already bad situation.
But would they then end up missing part of the competition?
Certainly.
That's really, really sad.
And before I actually wrap it up, I just wanted to bring something in because, Doctor, this is directed to you. At the beginning of the year, we actually said, you asked about my New Year resolution. And I said I was going to run the Lagos City Marathon, and you scoffed and you laughed. And that's the picture there for you.
You were there?
You're not just there, I actually just ran. So not only did I 10 kilometers, and I have the medal.
No, it was 42 kilometers. This is what Nigerians call debut year.
And I have the medal to prove, so I just put it down.
You got the medal?
Yes, I did get a medal. So this is for you. This is for
participating.
Not participating. For running, yes, actually.
An attendance medal.
A registration medal.
All right. So I'm a man of my words, but I'm there with Dr. Sue. There you have it.
Well done.
Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Brilliant.